And to details, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi called on Thursday on intensifying efforts to overcome economic, health and security repercussions of the coronavirus on African nations and peoples at regional and national levels. President al-Sisi made his call during his participation in the African Union Bureau Authority Summit through a video conference which was attended by the heads of African regional economic groupings. The President stressed significance of continuing collaborating efforts to vitalize the joint African action amid current critical circumstances. The head of state expressed his appreciation to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, the current African Union President, for his keenness to hold AU periodic meetings despite challenges resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. He stressed that the upcoming AU summit would depend on tackling crucial issues that affect social, economic path in the continent, which in turn plays a role in preserving peace and security in Africa. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said the summit tackled ongoing preparations of the AU summit, which is scheduled to be held in February 2021. Thursday's summit agreed on continuing coordination and follow-up efforts that aim at setting a mechanism for the AU summit which guarantee its flexible organization and realize interests of the continent and its nations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi instructed on Thursday to preserve financial resources needed for civil companies to continue implementing national developmental projects across the country. The President's directives came during his meeting with Head of Armed Forces Financial Affairs Authority Ahmed al-Shazli to follow up steps of funding the civil companies assigned to implement the ongoing projects. The meeting reviewed the progress report of the project for developing villages within the framework of Decent Life program. In this regard, President al-Sisi directed to guarantee finance flow for this project and to intensify coordination among the concerning state sectors. The head of state stressed importance of focusing on upgrading instruction and living conditions aspects to contribute in decreasing poverty rates and to develop infrastructure and basic services provided to citizens. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli hailed the development work made in Abdeen Courts complex and the upgrade in quality of services provided by the Ministry of Justice to citizens. During his tour to inspect the renovation work in the Abdeen Court complex, Madbouli said President al-Sisi had given his directives to develop the historical Old Cairo in general, which is part of the state's plan for Cairo to restore its cultural role. He was accompanied by Minister of Justice Amr Marwan and Cairo Governor Khalid Abdelal. The Minister of Justice noted that the renovation work in the complex is the first since it was established in the 30s of the last century. He said this comes as part of the ministry's plan to develop and upgrade courts to create an environmental suitable for judges and citizens. The new services include the moving registry office car, which provides all services. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli chaired the first meeting with the Higher Medicine Committee, which has been formed to follow up the work of the Egyptian Drug Authority and Unified Procurement Authority and coordination between them. The committee will submit an annual quarter report to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on the performance of the two authorities. It will convene every 3 months or when it is needed. The committee gets help from whoever it considers to carry out its tasks, then submit its report to the President. The southern Libyan delegation currently visiting Egypt issued a final communique in which the members of the delegation praised President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for his efforts to achieve Libya's unity. They also praised the continuous Egyptian efforts to host all Libyan sides in Egypt, bridging the gaps without being aligned with any side. The Libyan delegation also stressed the unity of the Libyan territories and also rejected any foreign interference in Libya, stressing their adherence to a political path to solve the Libyan crisis. They also showed full support to joint military panel to implement the agreement's items of ceasefire with the necessity of building national security institutions and closing ranks to combat extremist militias. The Libyan delegation also praised the Egyptian commitment to launch Libyan development path in all fields. The Ministry of Health hosted on Thursday a press conference on the latest developments in efforts to curb the spread of the coronavirus. The press conference reviewed the role of the Scientific Committee for combating the pandemic in developing treatment protocols. Head of the committee, Dr. Hussam Hosni, said the protocol is 100% Egyptian with the priority of protecting people's health. He said many researches had been carried out to approve any drug before adding it to the protocol of treatment. For her part, Deputy Head of the committee, Dr. Jihan Al-Assal, described the protocol of treatment as comprehensive. She said the committee is working on modernizing and adding new drugs to the protocol to reach best results. Egypt reported on Wednesday 911 new coronavirus infections, bringing the total number of cases to 127,972 people since the outbreak hit the country in mid-February. The Health Ministry also reported 42 new deaths, bringing the total number of fatalities to 7,209. The ministry added that 398 patients were discharged from hospitals, raising the number of those who have recovered to 107,961 people. Amid a rising number of coronavirus cases, the cabinet discussed measures to curb the pandemic in a meeting headed by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli. The Prime Minister announced banning public festivities and gatherings, as well as sticking to the anti-coronavirus precautionary measures on New Year's Eve. Madbouli noted that any violation to these measures will be firmly punished, as the government is seeking to avoid a full shutdown. He instructed to allocate a sufficient number of quarantine hospitals to provide treatment to the patients who may need it. And to details, the Ministry of International Cooperation issued its 2020 annual report, which was entitled International Partnership for Sustainable Development. The report stressed significance of empowering women and achieving equal opportunities as a priority and a sub-goal in many development projects that are being implemented within the ministry's ongoing portfolio of $25 billion. Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, said the participation of women in economy is critical and it is no longer a lip service. All stakeholders are coming together to progress towards gender parity. The ministry secured a total of $7 million through bilateral cooperation with Spain and Canada to merge the socio-economic gender gap. For the first time in history, 25% of the parliament seats are allocated to women, with 8 crucial ministries led by women in the Egyptian cabinet. Minister of Trade and Industry Naveen Gama announced her ministry's coordination with the trade and industry ministers in Iraq and Jordan to start concrete steps for complete economic and industrial integration between the three countries. Such integration comes within the framework of political leadership of the three countries, and an Egyptian delegation heads to Iraq in the coming days with participation of the Jordanian embassy to secure the needs of the Iraqi markets. This came during Minister of Trade and Industry Naveen Gama virtual meeting through video conference with her Jordanian counterpart Maha Ali. The ministers agreed on the significance of facilitating trade movement and easing obstacles which impede flowing of three-way trade to boost marketing products of the three countries. Egypt's stock indices collectively rose in the closing session, pushed by strong purchasing operations of shares in different categories. The benchmark EGX 30 index jumped by 0.6%, the EGX 70 index for small and medium businesses and the broader EGX 100 index also jumped by 1.68 and 1.37% respectively.